Welcome to the penultimate section and chapter of the book of Ecclesiastes. Where has the time gone? Wow. Okay, so here we are in chapter 11 of the book of Ecclesiastes. We have been exploring the author's explorations of the meaninglessness of life in its various aspects and components. He has been exploring all the issues, well, maybe not all, but quite a few of the issues that he sees in this life under the sun. And now, finally, in the last two chapters, he is calling us to make a decision. He is pretty much finished sharing his observations, and now he is challenging us to make a call. What are you going to do about this? In the face of the meaninglessness of life, in the face of all the vanities in this world, what are you going to do about it? As we like to say. So, chapter 11, on the face of it, though, it looks like a series of proverbs and commands that can feel a bit unrelated as you read them. The underlying thrust, though, in this chapter is a call to obedience to the Lord in all things, and to have faith in our Creator God. So let's take a look at what this chapter says. Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days. Give a portion to 7 or even to 8, for you know not what disaster may happen on earth. If the clouds are full of rain, they empty themselves on the earth, and if a tree falls to the south or to the north, in the place where the tree falls, there it will lie. He who observes the wind will not sow, and he who regards the clouds will not reap. As you do not know the way the Spirit comes to the bones in the womb of a woman with child, so you do not know the work of God, who makes everything. In the morning sow your seed, and at evening withhold not your hand, for you do not know which will prosper, this or that, or whether both alike will be good. Light is sweet, and it is pleasant for the eyes to see the sun. So if a person lives many years, let him rejoice in them all. But let him remember that the days of darkness will be many. All that comes is vanity. Rejoice, O young man, in your youth, and let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart and the sight of your eyes. But know that for all these things God will bring you into judgment. Remove vexation from your heart, and put away pain from your body, for youth and the dawn of life are vanity. Thus ends this reading. This chapter falls roughly into two halves, almost equal in length. The first 6 verses are really about faith, the venture of faith, the venture or almost risk of faith, going out on a limb to trust and have faith in God. So the first 2 verses begin with this sort of mercantile picture. Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days. If you're in a somewhat like Western culture and context like I am, you hear cast your bread upon the waters and you're going to start thinking about like feeding ducks, and your bread's going to be gone within moments. You will not find it after many days. But what this text actually means, cast your bread upon the waters, bread is not just about the food bread, it's about your goods. So this is actually more a picture of naval trade. Cast your bread upon the waters, you will find it after many days. So there's an investment when you're trading, especially overseas. Ships take a long time to travel, especially in the ancient world. They can go on long journeys and come back after some years, and then you get a return on what you sent out in trade. And so verse 2 follows this up. Give a portion to 7 or even to 8, for you know not what disaster might happen on earth. Some people have taken this less as trade, so it's not connected to first verse, and some people say that instead it's more about philanthropy, giving your portion, giving to 7 or 8 people, just being kind, being generous to multiple people. Either way, whether this is philanthropy or more about trade like verse 1, this is a call to invest heavily and enthusiastically. So together, these verses are describing the investing that we take, or the venture of faith, as we put stock in God. I mean, the pun is on purpose, right? Put stock. Apply your trade to it. It's like one of the parables of Jesus, where he likens the kingdom of heaven to a pearl of great price or to a treasure buried in a field. It is worth investing everything that you have in order to attain to it. So that is the venture of faith. We cast our goods across the seas. We give our portions to many people. So these are the limbs that we go on, and the reaches that we reach to invest seriously in having faith in God. And when you consider the vanities and the injustices and the pain of this life, faith really is an investment, because it's not going to be an immediate or obvious return or gain. And this is something that he describes hereafter in verses 3 and 4. And 5, for that matter. If the clouds are full of rain, they empty themselves on the earth. If a tree falls south or north, either way, wherever it falls, there it will be. So disaster may strike suddenly. We cannot anticipate the consequences. I mean, you can see rain, you can see clouds and the sign that rain is coming, and you can even guess, okay, well, maybe this tree is going to fall, but you don't know if it's going to fall north or south. You don't know what specific disaster awaits you. So disaster can strike suddenly, and it can be unexpected. We cannot anticipate all the consequences. But we need to approach this with faith and with patience, especially as we were talking about in the previous section about being patient and not bitter. Verse 4 adds to this here. He who observes the wind will not sow. He who regards the clouds will not reap. So if you're just preoccupied with danger and the vanity of life, if that occupies your attention, you will never actually get around to doing anything. If you're worried, it's going to rain, so I guess I shouldn't work outside because it'll just ruin everything, then you'll never work outside because you'll always be worried. So if life's injustices, if the vanity of life takes hold of your mind excessively, then your faith will never have room to exercise, and you will never do the things that God has called you to do. So you have to accept that you don't know everything that God does. You don't understand everything about what he does or allows in this world. And that's what verse 5 is describing, about you don't know how the Spirit comes to the bones of a child in the womb of a woman, and in this way you do not know the work of God who makes everything. So we don't know everything, and we can't understand everything. We can learn a lot of things, but we'll never understand everything, especially about God and the workings of the universe within God's permissive will. Finally, then, in the end of this section, he talks about sowing seed in the morning and not withholding your hand in the evening. This is similar to where we started, about casting your bread upon the waters, giving to 7 or to 8. Here, the images of working in the morning and working in the evening, for you do not know which will prosper, this or that, or whether both alike will be good. So we have to be diligent in our work. Or, to continue the faith analogy, we have to be constant in faith, precisely because you don't know what is going to turn out. You don't know what's going to happen in your life or in the world around you. This is the opposite of nihilism. And in fact, this is getting actually rather optimistic. Because you don't know what's going to happen, you should forge ahead in faith. Don't give in to the pessimism. Don't give in to the vanities and let that preoccupy your mind and heart. Rather, be full of faith and watch for the fruition of life, whether you get to see it or not. And then we take this to the next level. Again, nothing new. This is material that we've heard before, but this is part of Kohelet's final call to make a decision here. So we've talked about the venture of faith in these first 6 verses, and now he ups the ante in verses 7 through 10 to talk about joy. He's talked about this before, but now he wants to make sure that we're getting the picture. Light is sweet, pleasant for the eyes to see the sun. Not literally like don't look directly at the sun, obviously, that's not what he's saying, but daylight is good, and being able to bask in the daylight and see because of the daylight is good. So life is sweet, life is good, life is pleasant. It is the opposite of bitterness, as those were the follies, especially in the previous chapter. We want to step away from bitterness and pursue patience, and here, pursue joy. Take joy in the good things that God has given us. Take joy in the life that we have, however long or short it may be. So if a person lives many years, let him rejoice in them all. But let him remember that the days of darkness will be many. All that comes is vanity. So throughout your life, rejoice. You can't enjoy your life in retrospect. The days of darkness will be many. That is, you will be dead for a long time after you have been alive. Chances are we will be dead for much longer than we were alive before the general resurrection at the end of the age. So there is this call to rejoice while we have this life. Give thanks while we have this life. And this is our time to make good on what God has given us. The vanity of death is coming, so be sure to make good on a joyful life now. Rejoice, O young man, in your youth, in verse 9, and let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart and the sight of your eyes. But know that for all these things, God will bring you into judgment. So while he's still making the same point, let this joy permeate your entire being, your heart, your mind, the sight of your eyes. This is to be united to your knowledge of judgment. Know, for all these things, God will bring you into judgment. And this is not just head knowledge. Frequently, the word know in the Old Testament is an intimate knowledge. Adam knew his wife, and she conceived and bore a son. You know that for all these things, God will bring you into judgment. You know that you will die. You are intimately familiar with the reality of death because you have known other people in this life who have already died, and you know that you shall also die in your own time. So the joy of life is not ignorant. It's not, sticking our heads in the sand and pretending that we will never die, or imagining that maybe we'll be lucky enough to escape death. Rather, it is in full knowledge and acceptance that we shall die that we choose to pursue a life of joy, or that we take joy in the life that we have while we have it. Thus, joy is not frivolous, it's not licentious, but it is sober-minded. And this brings us to the final verse. Remove vexation from your heart, put away pain from your body, for youth and the dawn of life are vanity. He's saying, put away that painful cynicism, put away the pessimism and the nihilism. They will only hinder your life of godly joy. Yes, youth and the dawn of life are vanity because sooner rather than later you grow old and even die. But that cannot... So you can't put your hope and your joy in the fact that you are young when you are young. You take joy in the fact that you are alive. You take joy in the things that you do have in this life for however long you have them. This is Koheleth's first charge for a decision. Will you cultivate a life of joy? Will you cultivate a life of joy in what God has given you thus far? This is not the whole story. There's one more piece of the puzzle that he will bring before us in chapter 12. But so this is kind of a to-be-continued cliffhanger moment. But for the moment, we can sit with this question. Are you going to take the venture of faith and forge ahead faithfully in service to God, in obedience to his word? Will you listen? Will you seek him? will you live a life of joyfulness in what God has given you thus far? And we will see what comes in the next section, and then we will conclude the book. God bless.